What is going on, Rhys? What is going on, fam? Oh man, here we go. Rhys and
How are we?
Taps back at it again. What is going on?
Just get this tweeting for you as well. Bring some fam in. I'm good. I'm sweaty. I'm hot. Singapore, hot place compared to Canada.
Oh, I bet, man. Well, let me go ahead and introduce. Everyone, welcome, to TapsTrades channel, where I help keep you up to date with everything Ecomi, Veve, crypto NFT space. Our exciting guest today is a face we all know, and welcome again, calling in from Singapore. So the shirt is very appropriate, I feel like. Help me in welcoming the man with the mane, the saucy Aussie himself, Veve Communications Manager, Rhys Skellern.
I'll take that. The saucy Aussie himself.
Yeah.
Have to say, Taps, I'm happy to see that hair out as well, mate. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. I feel like you're always super nomadic, but how is Singapore?
It's sweaty. It's really sweaty. No, it's great though. It's great. My brother lives here. He has a 1-year-old daughter, my little niece, who I just met for the first time, and have been getting to know for the past few days. So it's great to be here. My mum flew in from Australia as well. Yeah, it's just a bit of a family reunion post-COVID, really, which is pretty good for us.
That's awesome. I've never been, but one day. And man, it's actually 2 weeks away from a year ago where we first had our first AMA. So we're at our 1 year anniversary. So I'm curious, are you going to be getting me a wallet for our 1 year anniversary, or?
Of course, there's a gift in the mail.
Oh yeah, that's the one I want. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been a year. What a year. I think I've aged 10 in that amount of time, but so much has changed since we spoke 12 months ago. Yeah.
And I was trying to make a comprehensive list of questions. I'm sure some of the fam will as well, but man, a lot has changed, but I think a lot of what the questions I've focused around are kind of, based on where things will continue to change, where they'll continue to go, especially since we've kind of been in this weird little spot lately. So before we get started into all those questions that I'm gonna try to do my best to grill you respectively. But before we get started, everyone hit that like button, show support for the channel, for Rhys, appreciate it. And we'll take community questions where we can. I'm gonna get through some of mine, so super chats will take priority. But yeah, let's. I was gonna do some quick little lightning round questions, but I think there's a lot of questions, and we'll get into it.
There is a bit of content. You can't start with a lightning round.
I know. We gotta start rifling them off, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So
awesome.
Well, yeah. Shout out to the fan.
And I'll try to save some people some money in case they're super chatting some questions already in here. But in terms of agenda, we're gonna be going through some stuff on promo codes and our user base, total size, cash out, MTL, KYC, Veveverse, Metaverse, some very future looking questions, because I think it's really important to know what is coming, and we'll kind of get into there. But the first question I really wanted to touch on, Rhys, is anytime Veve really starts talking a lot about something, I know it's pretty big, right? Where it's reiterated multiple times. And so the promo codes, when I first heard about it, I was like, okay, I'm not really sure what to think about this, but then I kept hearing it over and over and over mentioned in the AMAs. So physical meets digital is the premise behind these promo codes, right? So, it's been mentioned many times. Can you broaden a bit on what the vision of this, physical meets digital initiative is? Will this be done with, for example, I think a major toy manufacturer was referenced, but will that be done the physical side online, or will it also tie into potentially big box retail stores?
Yeah, classic David, you mentioning those details early. But look, that's definitely the longer term vision of the promo code thing. And I guess just to contextualize that, as you said, when the promo code first rolled out and people are like, oh, okay, whatever, right? It's just an extra box. But that in and of itself is a system that had to be built, right? In terms of being able to actually redeem those codes for an NFT or those kind of things. Now, the shorter term rollout and vision of that is more for digital product redemption. So we're not diving straight into the physical side of things. It's definitely part of the longer term vision and partnerships with these larger manufacturers. But for the immediate future, it will be more of a digital redemption tool. And that really helps to feed into part of the marketing strategy for this year as well, which I'm sure we will get into, at some point in this conversation. So look, there's not that much I can really reveal without giving away some of those plans that I'm not allowed to give away yet. I did just chat to Dan to confirm what I was allowed to say.
Like, hey, what am I allowed to say to Taps? Because he's going to be asking about all this.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's kind of the immediate future there, and really, it just gives us more potential to bring in new users, right? And to leverage the fan bases and the fandoms of these brands, and to offer them a product that they haven't seen before, or to onboard them to the app that they may have not seen as well. So that's kind of the plan there. Obviously, there's a lot of potential with product tie-ins. I know Alex kind of talked about movie tickets at one point, things like that. So we could see redemptions from those types of products. But really, it's leveraging the same way we do with all our product rollouts. It's leveraging the brands and fandoms that we already have established, and using that to bring new eyes to the platform, which obviously benefits everybody.
Awesome. So the long-term vision is potentially having something that is physical in like an actual store, right? So like I think immediately of like HRO, how they had some kind of deal worked out with Walmart through Cartamundi. That's where the vision is, but for now it's going to be leveraging partnerships with those, potentially those toy manufacturers, where they're going to be having a digital kind of campaign with Veve, and then will they be shooting it out on their social as well?
I would, yeah, presumably. I think that's pretty safe to say. Obviously our core product is in the digital space, right? And so the promo codes, aside from bringing new people to the app, are another way to help these licensors assimilate into the digital space, right? And to leverage their product lines to move into this new era of digital products. So that's really where the focus is to begin. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. So yeah, you guys are talking so much about it that of course I want to ask more about what it is, but I get it. You can't reveal what the master plan is yet until it's actually in effect. But I guess one other caveat to that is, I guess, how many partners or of those, manufacturers are you currently working with? Is it just kind of one right now, or is it multiple?
No, this opens up a lot of potentiality with a lot of our licensors.
Okay.
We obviously have our marquee partnerships with the Marvels and the Disneys and things like that. But this is a way to do it. For example, we still have the Ron English Rabbit Grin to roll out, right? And the promo code system had to be in place before things like that went out, right? If we're starting to do some sort of, and this isn't confirmation, but for those kind of more select drops, there might be some invite code drops, that you need, or you buy the physical and you need the promo code to redeem the NFT. So to be able to marry those two together, this system was necessary. But no, like most things we roll out, all the licensors watch what we're doing, right? And they watch what the other licensors are doing within the platform. So as soon as they start to see these features work and drive sales or drive that user base to their own product lines, everybody wants a piece of that. So yeah, I think we'll see it across a lot of brands.
Got it. No, that makes sense. So basically, like, the goal with it is to broaden the partnerships, current and potential new ones, and then bring in more of their base through this kind of cross campaign. So it makes sense to me. So that was like my main. I need more clarification on this, even though I knew you wouldn't give me all the information I wanted, but had to ask. So the next big question that I had was on the user base, right? So on the last AMA, there was like an estimate of around 2.6 million estimate users were mentioned, but we've noticed that the drops have become significantly easier to land, right? We're now getting multiple. It feels like kind of like back in the old days in like summer. So has there been a significant drop in retention of total users since we've had, some negative sentiment lately and some things that have happened? Or has a significant chunk of that 2.6 million were those bots that are now not able to really come out of hiding because of the transfer?
No. So that 2.6 million number that we see, and it might be a bit higher now from what it was previously, is active monthly users. Bot accounts and things like that. Sorry, I'm just going to close Discord before it's
Shout out to Alex.
Mate, go on.
You always have one though. Like, I always hide mine. I don't know how you have your hair down all the time. This is hot. I'm actually chopping it all off. That's why I was like, I guess I could FA my hair for once, but yeah.
Yeah. I can't believe you're chopping it, but that's fine.
It's time, man. It's time. It's too much.
Fair. No, yeah, sorry. So that 2.6 million number is active monthly users, right? So that's bot accounts. Once they're open, they tend to close straight away, or we close them down, all that kind of thing. So they're not actually counted in that figure. If you were going to go for total user accounts pre the big bot crackdown and things like that, it would probably be closer to 3.5 to 4 million accounts that were opened. Or whatever it is, and maybe from that, some of the retention had dropped. But in terms of active monthly users and real accounts, that figure is accurate. So I just wanted to really clear that up. Now, the competition on the drops, because we've had so much more success recently, since disabling gem transfers, since disabling collectible transfers temporarily, and obviously our systems are always being upgraded and learning to really squash this. Just means that there's less competition on the drop, which is why everybody's finally able to land one again, and happy days. So it's been a while since we've had that.
But that is crazy to think, though. So I mean, if we're at around 2.6 and then estimate 3.5 to 4 million with the bot accounts, and that means that there was a significant amount of bot accounts that were running rampant, I guess, throughout our user base.
Yeah, I should clarify. There wasn't like 1.5 million bot accounts in the system, right? That's kind of total downloads or accounts that are created. Most of which, once those bot accounts are closed, are out of the system. It's more just from an active monthly user base. Yeah, we're still sitting over that 2.6 million mark, which is exceptional after, a little over 12 months of a product being live.
Yeah, I mean, I remember how excited we were when we hit 60,000. So I mean, it definitely seems like some of that, there was a lot of issues that kind of popped out with, obviously the bots, like everything kind of just all happened at once, right? Like bots and then flagged accounts that were innocent. And I know there was some other issues with, UI and just quite a lot of things all at once. So, I'm definitely curious to see how the growth continues to scale with the new user base. And that's, I'm sure there will be some things coming in with the promo codes and some other things that you guys are probably going to reveal that will help continue that path that we were on to, 10 million, 20 million, potentially by the end of the year.
Absolutely. 2021 was a breakout year for Veve, but it was just a breakout year for NFTs, right? It really became the doorway for people into this industry and the wider crypto industry. So to really be able to capitalize on that growth, which we absolutely did, and still have these insane retention rates and all of that. Now we have the funding, right? Pre Veve, we were bootstrapping everything to try and get this product out, and licensing, acquisition fees, and wages, and all of the rest. And now we're frankly in the best possible position we could be in, right? We have that kind of more than 12 months now of data, and in terms of how the app is being used, where the user base, where the user retention is, how we can better utilize that data, as well as now obviously being funded to continue to build the vision, roll out the marketing, and then grow in a more traditional sense than just the kind of hype bubble that formed around the entire industry over the past 12 months, coinciding with the bull as well. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Okay. And so, I mean, the big question that, I'm trying to get like the big ones first and make sure they're addressed, but cash out, right? So cash out, MTL, the money transfer license. Alex G mentioned and I know he's in here, so he's gonna be like, wait, did I say that? Alex mentioned in the last AMA that MTL is happening in Q2, which, we have about 2.5 more months left. So does that mean it will roll out of beta to more users by the end of Q2, or that everyone should have access to MTL by the end of the quarter?
So I did just get clarification on this, so I didn't misspeak. And maybe we start with the rollout first. So most people should be aware by now that the web platform has to come first. And that as soon as that's live, the pay-in features will be live as well. So people will be able to purchase gems and things through that. As soon as the KYC rolls out as part of that. So it'll be web platform, KYC integration, and then the cash out. But no, the expectation is by the end of Q2 that all users should have access to pay in and pay out and the KYC and all of that. Yeah, huge integration. Now, obviously, as all parts of this story seem to go, there's always things that have come up, like the New Zealand crackdown on digital assets, or not even digital assets. The crackdown has been on money laundering, right? And they've drawn a line in the sand to say that we want to be the toughest country or take the toughest stance on this kind of thing, which affects all downstream businesses, ourselves included, because we obviously deal with financial transactions. So this rollout had to be put in place for that. So the current beta testing we have paused, right, in term, because it's unnecessary now until the web platform and the KYC integrations are in. But we've tested it, right? So all the infrastructure is built. It's kind of ready to go. So at that point, once those first integrations roll out, we're fully expecting everybody to have access by the end of the quarter.
Got it. So since the betas are now, I guess, paused, and so you said it's going to be desktop version and then KYC and then MTL, and will it just be everyone open your Veve, you now can cash out, or will it just be like, I guess, 1 week, 1 million got it, and the next week another million get it, or will it just be like a flip of a switch?
I think I would like to assume we'll probably still step it, but I think by that point we're confident that it won't be like 10 users, then 10, then 10. It'll be quite a large size of user base to come in, and then by the end of the quarter it should be open to everybody. Yeah, as provided they pass KYC.
Right. And you spoke about KYC, that was on here as well. So there was mention of, like you just said, the big anti-money laundering crackdown from New Zealand. So Veve will soon have to KYC. And I know there's I think there's more happiness versus not happy about it, but it's been an ask for a long time. So my question is it going to create some hindrance that was spoken about kind of in the early days about why Veve didn't KYC and for new users, right? Like it's an added step, or will it kind of help the business scale faster because it's now a safer environment where you're able to actively not have as many bots and people who are able to steal your collectibles or go off at?
Yeah. I think you've nailed it there, right? Now, look, initially we may lose some users that are solely crypto and just hate the KYC concept and all of that, but regulation is coming. Regulation is coming to this industry whether people want it or not, and it's not just coming to NFTs, it's coming to crypto in general. So really for us, this is future-proofing the business, and obviously we're improving the user experience within that because it does prevent those scam accounts and makes it a much safer environment for the mainstream audience, which has always been our target. But look, personally, I won't be surprised to see OpenSea implement some sort of KYC in the next year or two. I think most companies that operate in this space will have to, or they will just face too much regulatory scrutiny. So yeah, for us, this was more about being proactive, and we have to roll the KYC portion out before we can have payout anyway, right? That's just very clear. But it's more about future-proofing the business and creating a much more sustainable system on that front as well. And for all of us, right? If we don't meet these regulatory requirements, then we don't have a business, and that's the end of the story, right? So it's a non-negotiable at this point, and I think we'll see it across the industry.
Yep. Yeah, that was, and I think with like what you mentioned with OpenSea, I mean, it's going to have to happen, right? This is driving me nuts. Because I was actually speaking with my CPA, and she was like, "Do you have NFTs?" And I was like, "Yes." And then she's like, "Well, you might want to claim them now because eventually rolling down the line, it's going to be, you're going to be authenticated as who you are, and they're going to audit trail, right?" So I think they're mostly going after like the big whales, right? But that's the way things are moving, right? Everyone wants to be able to track and know where your money's going, where your profits are coming from. So yeah. I think that
we're already seeing it in other projects where to get a whitelist spot, you have to KYC to some basic degree and dox your address to be able to join that whitelist, right? Like we're not the only ones that are seeing the future of this and taking steps to future proof. Yeah, it's a prevalent thing, and it will be more so in the future.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thanks for clarifying that. The one other thing that you mentioned on the last AMA was buybacks, right? There's been a whole lot of FUD and, not even FUD, just people saying it doesn't matter that OMI is burning at the rate that it's burning because it doesn't matter if there's no buybacks. It doesn't matter if there's utility. But you did say that there are discussions with higher powers that will, that it's still on the table, but that's, already news that we have. But the question that I have is, you also said something around how the OMI token is designed to support other platforms. Now, are you referring to the ability to use OMI just in other marketplaces like Immutable X or Token Trove, or were you referring to something bigger like OMI in broader other NFT projects or metaverses? I guess, can you clarify a bit more into that?
Yeah. Both, really, right? I mean, OMI is already available on the IMX Marketplace. I think Token Trove, I'm not sure if they've added it yet, but they did sort of mention something on Twitter last week. But really, and I think I mentioned this at the same time, that we're looking at reshaping the system that we have to use what we have to better effect to support other platforms like games, or to be used in the Veveverse and tie it all back into our system. So I think we've confirmed in an AMA, I hope we have, because I'm about to anyway, that there's now 3 games that I'm aware of that will start to utilize the OMI token in some capacity, that are external to what we're doing, but we're tying them back into our system. So
have we heard that?
I think we heard 2. I'm going to.
Yeah, I heard 1.
I've got to give you some. So that those things are coming, and they're part of the longer term. It's not so much a roadmap, but definitely part of the vision for expansion of the token, right? And in utilizing it in more places. So if we can make it more available as a payment token, like in marketplaces on IMX, as well as an in-game token in other games, because fundamentally, I mean, the OMI token is now out and public and available. Anybody can use it if they want to and build. Now, this is in no way confirmation, but I would love to eventually set up some sort of almost like a grants program, so that we can encourage and foster the growth and use of the token in other platforms and other games as well, because we're not limited to just using OMI within Veve, right? There is so much more potential for the token that we can build in, and in doing so, tie it back into our tokenomic system and benefit everybody in the ecosystem.
Okay, yeah. So excited. I never heard the 3 games thing. I've heard of like 1 and like speculation around 2. The grants program is awesome to hear too. I got to put the hair up. You're getting me hot and bothered now. So when you say 3 games, do you mean like mobile games? Do you mean specifically NFT, like play to earn games in Veve specific?
No, these are external to Veve that I'm talking of. So these are like completely separate games that will utilize the token. One of them will be play to earn that I'm aware of. The other 2 I probably can't reveal anything about just yet.
But 1 is play to earn.
Correct.
Oh.
There's play to earn mechanics, right? It's like, I know that everyone, Axie is probably the poster child of play to earn gaming at the moment. And to be honest, I'm not entirely up to speed as to how all of their mechanics work. But obviously people are seeing that example and really starting to understand how they can build those systems into their own games and use that to attract a user base, because we live in a world of incentive that to really cut through the noise, that those incentives have to be strong enough, and using the OMI token as that is definitely something I'm pushing for in as many places as we can get it.
Awesome. Well, I mean, right away, my brain's going, right? So I'm like, play to earn, OMI, more ways for utility, more ways to burn OMI, more incentive. I mean, if I can earn OMI by, I don't know, playing some kind of Illuvium or just other NFT game, right? I mean, that's pretty big incentive and pretty exciting, because when we think about OMI right now, again, we think about the fact that it still needs its utility. It's tied to an NFT marketplace, an NFT platform. We know it'll eventually be recognized as a metaverse token, but now it can actually, eventually be recognized as also play to earn token. We know how big play to earns have taken off. So I know you've never heard this before, but when will we see at least the first for a couple of games?
Yeah, actually, I'm hoping to have the first one out. I hate putting timelines to things, and I can't say soon. In the next few weeks.
No.
Let's hope that it comes. Yeah. Alex will kill me if I drop a soon. So
that's probably a 4 chili announcement, though.
Yeah. Look, it's exciting for anyone who holds the token, right? I know everyone has always bought this to use it within Veve, and those features I'm sure we can kind of touch on soon anywhere with OUP, are only getting stronger by the day.
Mm-hmm.
But having more options and more places to use those tokens, whether it is to buy your HRO cards on Immutable or those kind of things, is definitely part of the longer term vision and roadmap for the token. And I have to send so many props to Immutable and the entire Immutable fam that is growing from this and making those tokens interoperable on all these marketplaces. I mean, it's only going to benefit everybody in this ecosystem and on the protocol too. So it's that's exciting for me to see as well.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to see how fast Immutable X is building out their ecosystem. And when you look at the full ecosystem of Immutable X, it's primarily a gamers, like they have a lot of different types of games. Obviously NFTs and different things are being built into it. But when you look at some of the transaction volume and you look at just how much spotlight it's had versus, the number one Matic Polygon, they're really starting to build out really, really fast. And they're aligned with some really, really big names, right? Like obviously Nike bought Artifact, and Disney's in there, Tom Bilyeu's Impact Theory. Like there's so many, Illuvium, there's so many in there that are building a lot of awareness, and that's just going to reflect on Immutable X. And hopefully the project will have the most NFTs in their marketplace soon. Sorry, I said the word, can't say it. Eventually. Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. One question I had is on the interactive or the animation, right? So there's been long awaited anticipation for DeLoreans to become drivable, and we've already seen the James Bond car is drivable. The James Bond car is drivable. Will we see other past collectibles turn on or become animated this year? Of course, we want animated in AR, but I guess the second question to that is, will all Veve collectibles be interactive and placeable in the Veveverse?
I wouldn't say that they'll all be interactive. I think we'll still continue to have similar releases where there might be like a lower price static model, and then the sort of higher tier interactive ones. As to whether they'll be drivable, for example, as the cars, licensor dependent, model dependent, right? It depends on how they're built or how the licensor wants these things to be built. But we definitely go back and make some retroactive upgrades, right? We have confirmed that the DeLorean interactive models will have that controllability. I think I just saw this morning that the Ecto One has had an upgrade. The lights are now improved on the roof of the Ecto One. The light bar on Kit, the Knight Rider car, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's really part of adding utility to these collectibles that we want to make them as fun and interactive as we can, so that you can do things with them, right? That is one of the main value propositions of a digital product over a physical collectible, right? Instead of just leaving it on a shelf to be dusty and wait 20 years for it to accrue value, it maintains the same value and you can have fun with them.
Right.
So we're always looking for those kind of integrations and interactions. As to which ones, how many, when, if they'll all be in, there's surprises that Alex will punch me in the face for if I release.
That's okay. I think Alex hopped off. Just go ahead and tell us your closest 500 friends.
So yeah, there's definitely more coming. In terms of if they'll be that way in the Veveverse, we'll have to wait and see until that rolls out. I mean, anything that has that interactivity or controllability within the app, I think would be safe to assume it's not going to revert to a static state in the future. It's more a matter of how can we use those features to better effect, to augment that experience too.
Got it. Well, speaking of the Veveverse, thanks for bringing it up there, Rhys. The first iteration is still scheduled for this year, right? Like it was supposed to come in 2021, but there's so many different things that we needed obviously to happen before that came. I see you nodding. So scheduled for this year still?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I do laugh when I see that on Twitter. There's no way they'll deliver it this year. Yeah, it's already in the works.
It's like every other video where if I mention it, someone's like, it's not coming out till 2050. And I'm like, I mean, sure. Okay. Yeah. So, but I did just have to preface it, right? Like that it's slotted for this year. It's not pushing out to 2023.
And I might just preface that quickly. It's not going to be Ready Player One from day one. Just in case people are expecting that, and we've kind of said this, the first iteration really will be more of an expansion on your digital space, right? And your home and being able to customize your home and that kind of thing, visit your friends' showrooms, that sort of thing first, and then we expand on the ecosystem from there.
Right. So there'll be different phases and rolled out, but I'm really curious, how is the Veveverse going to roll out or launch, right? So this is a big deal, right? To have Veve, who's been talking about this for quite some time, but is still not recognized as a metaverse token at all from the greater space. And so, will it be like a, hey, Veveverse is up, everyone go log in, or will it be this massive collaborative launch with partners involved towards the end of this year?
I don't think the first rollouts will sort of be a co-marketed, co-partnered kind of thing. Aside from the fact that we have so many licensed partners and trying to integrate all of them all at once would be quite the challenge. Because of the way that the first iteration is designed to be more of an expansion of that digital space. No, I think it'll be more open to our community just to say like, yep, this product's ready to test. I'm sure we'll roll out a bit of a testing phase as we tend to do anyway before that rolls out, and becomes live. So yeah, that's I can't really say too much more about that until we get closer to it. I know we're quite scant on details there. But personally, what I would like to see as the Veveverse evolves, individual or separate from Veve as its kind of own spin-off is to create a more interoperable metaverse, in the same way that a lot of other projects are leaning, because we've always maintained that is the future of this industry. And it gives us a lot more potential for those interactions, for people to enjoy other NFTs potentially and sort of bring that into their digital home. And in the same way that you see projects now where they do have that digital display room similar to our showrooms. So that's my longer term vision for the Veveverse as well, to kind of create that space for people.
Right. But in order for that to happen, we do need that first stage of interoperability to happen with Immutable X Marketplace, and then for them to then also push out to, Token Trove, and they keep coming out with integrations. I know that they are working, or they've been working on the integration with OpenSea. Fingers crossed for Coinbase NFT Marketplace soon coming, hopefully. But you did say that is not happening in Q2. Does that mean it's happening in Q3?
I'm not going to confirm that. I can't put a date to that. No way am I going to cop the flack for that one. Yeah, we'll see when that comes. Look, our biggest development priority. Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. I'd try it too. But our biggest priorities right now are the web platform KYC payout, and then OMI features and utilities. We're not naive to the fact that we owe the community quite a lot of these features. And for better or worse, that our timelines have pushed out. But they're our priorities at the moment, to really deliver on the things that we should be delivering on, and then opening up that interoperability and adding features on top.
Got it. Okay. In the terms of the metaverse, it seems like, we've gone through our different phases, but the metaverse is definitely not something that's going away. There's a lot of excitement. Largest investors are very much talking about it. They've been talking about it, but it seems like every week a major company is announcing that they have plans for the metaverse, with Microsoft, Facebook, Disney, even appointing a chief metaverse officer, that's a title I hope to have one day. Really, really cool. But how much of an effect will this have on Veve Collectibles and OMI when it becomes a reality, right? Because it's going to be so competitive, forward looking, that, Veve just now launching a metaverse at the end of the year. How are you guys going to really compete with these big companies and also the standards like Sandbox and Decentraland?
I don't really see it as competition at this point. We're all very early in the piece, right? So I think we're very much in this stage of, all ships rise with the tide. But really, if the metaverse thesis evolves the way that most of us think it's going to, and does become this kind of interoperable, move your assets from one to another, or your character and your experience and that kind of thing, then I think that all metaverses benefit all metaverses, theoretically, right? It's the same. It's not like you play one game now and you stick to one game on PC on Microsoft, and then that's it. You hate playing everything else. If I can now take these characters or items I love and move them to another metaverse and enjoy different gaming experiences there, that is the metaverse, right? On a micro scale, we have our own metaverse, but the metaverse kind of just continues to balloon out and create these experiences. I think I saw Discord is moving into the metaverse as well. They had portals and communication things there. All of those features only stand to benefit metaverse builders, right? Because you're given more options and more tools. And then as a consumer, you're given more options and more availability, right? So our value proposition there is the same that it is with Veve. We have the licensed content. So we have a point of difference in terms of what we're building, and we can offer that to fans and collectors. Now, another metaverse might have a specific gaming apparatus that you particularly enjoy, or something similar, and you'd go there for that, but you'd come to ours for experience A, B, and C. So look, I don't personally see that as competition. I think if anything, it will continue to propel this industry forward, because we are just living more digital lives these days. And we're only, I don't know what the penetration of the internet is globally, but I think it's still only at 65%, something like that. So it's not even just the current users of digital technology. I mean, then you niche down further into crypto and NFTs and metaverse, right? But eventually I would expect that to be all encompassing, even from the point of websites, right? Like a website right now is a 2D website, right? Whereas soon you'll send somebody your address in the metaverse and they'll port to your shop, right? That is another metaverse use, right? Or potential of that technology. So I don't think there's enough companies in the world to really take complete market share from anybody, and I think that it will all benefit each other. Yeah.
Got it. And speaking about competitors in market share, we've seen a lot more pop up in specifically the digital collectible space, right? So over the past year, we've seen a lot come from, like, good and bad things come from Recur, HRO, Wax, Quid, TVK, Epic, HoloLoot. I mean, it guaranteed there's going to be more and more coming, right? It's a lucrative space, it's a hot space, and people want a chunk of it, right? So what's Veve's plan to stay unique and keep that market share as the space gets more popular?
Yeah, I mean, obviously from a licensing point of view, and not just the brands that we have that set us apart at the moment, but the products we create. We've always maintained that premium nature of our products, and that really shows in terms of these beautiful 3D models and the interactivity and those kind of things. So I don't see that changing, frankly. Right? I think that we will always kind of maintain that premier status, and obviously having that first mover advantage has definitely given us an advantage. Look, I think these licensing companies will branch out into other product types, right, and across other platforms. That's how they make money, and I think that's the same as the metaverse conversation. I really think it's so early in the piece that everyone is going to stand to benefit from these things, and we're seeing these new companies go through the same growing pains that we went through, right, and will continue to as they puzzle out their own systems and those kind of things. So I just don't think we're at a point of cutthroat competition yet, and I don't see that. I don't see that really impacting anyone too negatively for at least the next couple of years, really.
Right. I mean, to your point, you said, that there's only so much, I guess, space. Like, it's still very much a small space of, well, no, so you said like 66% of internet users or whatever, but when you actually bake that down too, there's, I think, around 10% of total world population owns some kind of crypto. And it's usually like not a lot, right? Like, it's not a big part of their investment strategy. And then when you go another layer deeper and you look at who holds NFTs, it's even less than that, right? So the space, to me, I mean, like, I'm invested in some of those other projects too. So, I support Veve, support some of those other ones, but I think, again, until that market share actually becomes something that's like really, really significant, it's not everyone crawling all over each other to try and, retain as much. It's more like we need to get as much awareness as possible to gain some of that incoming flow of new users and new people interested in NFTs.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and see it with a very narrow viewpoint, but like literally everything we use, everything in your room behind you, everything around us, everything we use every day is going to be digitized. So we're not limited to this kind of small space on a shelf in Walmart or something like that. We're talking like every single item you've ever picked up or used in your life is going to be moved into the digital space. So the market sector itself for NFTs, for the metaverse, for these things is exponentially greater with more access to more people than any product that has ever existed in all of time. So it's not, the stuff that's happening now is completely irrelevant to what this industry is going to look like in 5 years' time or 10 years' time, as more people are onboarded into it, as the younger generations who are already digitally native learn about it, adopt it, start to work their job in the metaverse. We're really transitioning to this. It's the exponential age, right? It's the exponential adoption of digital technologies coming at the same time as things like augmented reality glasses and micropayments and all of these things that literally were not possible 10 years ago. So to zoom in too close and think that because there's 6 companies currently trying to do the licensed NFT thing that it's somehow competition on the future is just, I just think it's irrelevant, frankly.
Right. And I totally forgot about this. I saw someone post it, and thanks everyone for the super chats, the questions. I'm trying to hit them and like throw them in as we're going through the list, and I will reference back. So thanks. And just getting through some of these, because some of the questions in those super chats are already in here. So we'll definitely get to them and then reference back for some community questions as well. But one thing you did just say, and it was actually one of the questions someone asked, was about wearables. So in the first iteration of the Veveverse, at least with our homes, will it have functionality with an Oculus or at least some kind of wearable, or is that a few phases out?
It's definitely on the roadmap to be able to integrate with those existing headsets. And I think I saw an article only a few days ago that made it sound like Apple was getting closer to releasing their AR glasses as well. Now, whether they tie in directly from day one, I can't say. I actually don't personally know what that takes from a development standpoint. But those technologies are meant to be plug and play before long as well, right? Where it's connected, what you're seeing on the screen, you can see in the headset. So yeah, we're definitely it's definitely part of the development roadmap. I can't say yes or no as to whether it'll be day one or not in the Veveverse. Yeah.
Fair enough. Next question is on OMI Utility. So the OMI token kind of feels lately like it's been friend zoned, right? Many of us have just been waiting on utility for quite some time now, and we've seen the Veve collectibles just go absolutely nuts, and then they've kind of reconsolidated a little bit, but they're still pretty high up from at least where they were in the beginning versus the OMI token, which is down from this time last year. So I know we're still waiting on the updated OUP article, which you mentioned there are some other things in the works that will bring strong value back to the token. Can you share more detail around this? We kind of touched on the games, which wasn't expecting that when I wrote that question, but I guess other elements that you really feel are going to bring more value to the token as a whole.
Yeah, so I have been working quite a lot lately on restructuring the entire OMI Utility program based on the feedback we've collected. And I think I touched on this a few days ago anyway, or last week sometime. Now, I need to get a full development outlay, or not so much a roadmap, but really I need to find out more if the things that are designed are possible in the time frame they're possible in. And honestly, I would rather do that before I started to drop these breadcrumbs about what's coming. In saying that, I am planning to try and put out the next version of the OUP early May, because I should have that together by then, and hopefully by then more clarity on the buybacks and those kind of token tie-ins as well. But basically, what we're trying to achieve is more gamification, for lack of a better term, right? And using the token to better effect there. Now, that comes with the staking tiers and the perks that they unlock, which are more comprehensive now than they were in the first iteration. We do have the 5 tiers there. We're going to make OMI transactions available to anyone, right? You don't have to be staking, but we'll probably tack on a slightly larger OMI fee there. So, as a privilege for using it without staking, you'd pay a fee which burns from circulation as well. But there's quite a number of mechanisms in there that will start to take OMI out of circulation, reward the stakers, reward longer term stakers as well. I don't think we had that in the first version. And that way, and as well as creating other ways to kind of fast track your way through and take OMI out of circulation there. So I can't really go into the details just yet, but I will get those details out to people as soon as possible.
Okay, awesome. So, and will that be the final version of the OUP article, or will it be version 0.2 followed by another version?
I think this will be the final version. Yeah, look, there might be some numbers that get tweaked, and understandably so. We won't know the full impact of it until it rolls out, right? And so until we get that data set to say, okay, this clearly was attractive enough, or maybe the incentives at this tier weren't strong enough, or things like that, we might be able to tweak some of those numbers and rewards. But no, when we put this out, I'm very confident that it's the strongest program we could possibly put forward at this point.
Awesome. Well, wanted to address exchanges too, right? More ways to buy OMI. You mentioned in the last AMA that more exchanges are for sure coming this year. I guess, and I can't ask when, of course, and I can't ask, how many. So my question is, will any of them be more app centric, right? Veve is an app and that's where OMI will be used. So are there going to be complementary exchanges that are more app centric and more widely known that we don't have today?
What do you mean by more app centric? You mean like directing people to the app, or
so if you, I think Bitforex has an app, but it's not good, right? Like, so there's definitely exchanges that are more web-based focused, right? So you go to Bitforex, you go to Gate.io, but they're not really known or have heavy use via the app. So I'm thinking, more like a KuCoin or Crypto.com or Binance.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Anything like that where there's heavy users that are doing it or buying crypto on their phones.
And presumably because they're using the exchange phone app, the tie-in is there with the Veve. Yeah. I mean, all the exchanges are on at the moment. I don't know much about Gate.io, to be honest, but the other ones do have a mobile app. But yeah, the idea is that we continue to step up the caliber of exchange that we're listed on. And if that is predominantly on there, if most users are using their mobile app, then sure, there's a tie-in there. But it's not necessarily a direct link, obviously, between our app and that app. But there are other options outside of the centralized exchanges too, right? Obviously, we have Uniswap. There will be other sort of decentralized liquidity protocols that might be worth pushing the token to. I would love to start integrating OMI into more DeFi protocols as well to create more opportunity there for people. So they're all things I'm focusing on. There's also apps or companies like MoonPay, right? Like through MoonPay, you can directly buy the IMX token on layer 2 through Immutables Marketplace, right? Now, there's a few boxes we have to check before we can really start applying to those guys, including listing on bigger exchanges.
Right.
But really the focus outside of the app integrations is figuring out how we can open access to the token, making that a much more seamless experience for the mainstream users who are, the predominant user base that we have, right? And then tying it into the OUP, there will be some incentives that are specifically OUP that give quite hefty advantages, I would argue, and should encourage people who are non-crypto users to want to jump the gap and buy that token too. So we really need that access to be opened as wide and easily as possible, so that we can continue to introduce mainstream users to the OMI token.
Got it. Okay, no, that's helpful. One question that I feel like I ask a lot, but it's because I know just how big it is, so I have to throw it in here. But I'm changing around, so it's not just a full when, but localization, right? The ability to have the app in multiple languages. Is this still happening this year? And I guess why hasn't it happened yet? It's been talked about for almost a year, but is it because Veve is scaling internal processes to handle the inflow of what that could bring for new users? Or I guess what's the holdup? Is it a heavy lift, and is it coming this year?
Yeah. So yes, it's a heavy lift. Yeah. From a development standpoint, once localization is available in the app, everything that is done or rolled out needs a longer lead time because we have to be able to translate everything into each language or make those things available. From a when point of view, like I said earlier, we're really prioritizing other things at the moment, frankly. We want to get these payout in. We need these core pillars in place before we can really push the marketing side of things, because everyone who's in the community has seen what the opposite causes, right? When you can't cash out and there's misunderstanding there and those kind of things. So they're definitely the priority. Now, localization makes more sense when we are going to roll out a wider selection of localized licenses, right? I know you're a big anime fan and have been waiting since day one for more actual anime drops. But as part of our rollout, I mean, obviously we now have Disney on board. Disney has an almost innumerable amount of content and licenses, things like that, which will continue to roll out in amongst all our other licenses. But we're at a point now where we really do kind of structure these verticals to start pushing more in one direction or another. So until we kind of have that, a bit more of a really multiple licenses that we can roll out in the same vertical. For example, anime. It doesn't really make sense to prioritize it over some of these other core features as much as I know that people want them. So that's kind of the logic, I guess, behind that, and why we're prioritizing these other items first. And then as we start to launch these new verticals like anime or whatever it happens to be, we launch them on a rolling basis so that there's a point to localization. If we go through and change all the languages in the app, and add, say, Japanese and Korean and whatnot, drop one anime brand, and then that's it for the year, we actually just wasted a few months of development time.
Right.
So
you need to have like a rolling, like these are specifically targeting. So we're going to keep them, we're gonna get them excited and then retain them, and then kind of filter in more things that are not just only one vertical or anime specific, but still have enough coming. So that way you're appeasing the new user base while still keeping the rest of us, happy as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And, we I think we've got more than 200, 250 brands and licenses now. We're still signing an insane amount all the time. And they will start to be more localized, right? We do have like more region specific drops. And the pieces will be in place before we roll those out. It's more just at the moment, the majority of our user base is in the US, right? And so catering to a more Western audience with the brands and licenses we have just makes more sense from a product rollout than it would to completely change the roadmap just to drop sort of one anime license.
Got it. No, that's helpful. And I had a question on UI and also on marketing, but based on you kind of like going into the brands, I'm going to skip those and come back to them. You mentioned Disney, right? So we've seen an incredible amount of drops with Disney and Marvel and DC and artists in the app, and they've been great, right? But it's also been heavily that content for a while. So, it seems like there's a demand for something new in the community. So my question is, have we seen the top of the top with, Disney and Marvel being the main licensors for our NFTs, or will we see equal caliber brands in, I guess, and not knocking into the artists because, I'm a fan, I have a Tristan Eaton on my collectible, but, will we see some more, like, I guess, world-renowned or world-known artists also joining Veve as well?
Yeah, so I mean, the top of the top is subjective, right? It depends on what you like in particular as to whether you view that as the top. So obviously Disney has a hell of a lot of content under their umbrella. But if you're not a fan of Disney, then you probably don't see that as the top or the upper echelon of brands, right? It's easy to kind of do it from a market capitalization standpoint, but it's not necessarily the top for you. So yeah, I think in all categories and all verticals, there's plenty more to come. There's plenty more to come. There's plenty of big artists. There's plenty of big brands. If it just depends on what you like in particular as to whether you're going to value those things as the top. But obviously our intention is to have as many brands in our hands and as many pies as possible in every product line, right? So yeah, I would say, yeah, to subjectively answer your question, yes, I think there's just as many big brands to come. Yeah, and I mean, even under the Disney umbrella, there's so many things to come that we haven't seen, right? I love the fam and I love the community, and I love that 6 months ago or whatever it was, having Disney was like the most outlandish pipe dream we could have had, and now it's like, you're dropping too much Disney. Give me something else. It's like, give us a break, guys.
We all got ADD. We're like, all right, this has been awesome. What's next? But yeah, and I've actually touched a little bit on like just how large the Disney umbrella is, right? Like it's not just Disney, Pixar. So I'm really curious to see some more of that unravel. And again, there's still some great content I'm sure that we'll see with Disney. And there's a lot of hope with some of our collectibles having real life utility. There's been some talk around real life utility as well. So, I guess how with the real life utility side, will that be solely promo codes, or will there be other potential things like not just Disney Plus subscription, but things like that will come to new collectibles, or will it also have effects on past collectibles?
Yeah, look, as this rolls out, I think we'll see a lot more co-marketing, right? And there's like Coca-Cola Starlight, for example. We're obviously their digital product partner. They've rolled out a new flavor, and we've now rolled out some NFTs that that tie in there. Now, obviously, there's not I think we've probably seen these AR videos. If there's like I don't know what it was from, but if you scanned like a Coca-Cola bottle and it would generate an immersive experience, things like that. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's coming, but that is the future of these kind of co-marketed products. And if we're that partner, then I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be rolling out things like that. As to whether things will be retroactively upgraded to provide those experiences, no idea. Well, it depends on the brand, it depends on the product, and from a marketing point of view, are we reusing or trying to rehash a product that has already rolled out, or are we moving attention to a new product and pushing that forward? So, yeah, there's probably not too much more I can comment on that front just yet. But as we move forward and as everything does become digitized, that's kind of, I think that's where the whole industry moves regardless.
Got it. Okay. No, that's helpful for what we can know, right? So one thing that's kind of been tickling my brain a little bit too is, again, like kind of like you said, we're like, Disney was amazing and we got all excited, and then we're kind of like, all right, what's our next big, monstrous bomb that's going to drop? One thing that, David, you mentioned in recent AMA was that there's a new digital product coming as well, right? So do you think the reception will be as big as our last digital product with comics dropping? Like, that was massive. It made sense for Veve. Is this next digital product that's coming going to have the same weight?
It's a great question. I don't know what David you was talking about. So you may have just been. Look, any new product type, if it is as big or monumental. Sorry, I had to put that up so it's too hot. As the comics, we would look to sort of aim for the same rollout and the same, just to capitalize on it in the same way, I would think. There's probably not. I can't really talk about that. I don't know what David was referring to. We'll all find out together on that front.
He's just youing all of us, of course.
He's just youing about.
Yep. That's fair. So still on the brand side, a lot of brands of that 250, I guess, or brands you guys have been announced, but just haven't come yet, right? So we saw Jurassic Park and Capcom and FLPA, even ones that had specific articles come out like LOL Surprise Dolls and Little Prince and things like that. Without, I guess, saying which of those or other ones, are all that have been announced or revealed still coming, or have some of those licensors moved on to other projects?
Yeah, so we still have deals with all of them, to my knowledge, or most of them. The only questionable one might be NFLPA, because I know the NFL itself came out 12 months ago and kind of put a stop to any sort of NFT deals, and we had to deal with them well before NFTs are a thing. But they're never out of the loop, right? Everybody who we've ever been involved in watches what's happening and comes back to us. And I guess just to give people some context on those kind of things, yeah, there are some licenses we announced 6 months ago and expected to roll their content out a few weeks later. And because of the approval process and all those things have been pushed. I mean, 007 is a perfect example. That movie came out months ago. We've only just finally released, those last pieces of content. It can take that long for a licensing approval process to actually go through and allow these products. So these days, and we really do try to announce, if we're announcing a new license, it's because we're pretty well ready to drop that content, so that it doesn't end up in this questionable backlog of artists or brands to come. But no, all of those brands that I can see on your list that you've kind of mentioned, Capcom, Jurassic Park, that kind of stuff, are definitely still on the cards. And goes back to the co-marketing thing. There's better campaigns and better uses for the rollout of these products now than there was 12 months ago when we announced some of these things, right? And tying them into other releases and other plans that they have for their own brands and licenses. So, yep, we're going to see a lot more of those co-marketed products and rollout plans.
Okay, now I appreciate the clarification there. So potentially NFLPA is, off the table, at least maybe for now, but that kind of ties into also what we've discussed in past with the verticals coming, right? So we've talked about, of course, anime now. We're talking about sports, and so and music. Are those verticals still? Are there going to be more verticals this year? And then when it comes to sports, if we're going to see more than just that like you have more than just NFLPA for the sports vertical that you're currently working with?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we'll see sports later this year. Same thing. There's always a more structured approach. That's really what we're aiming for when we roll these things out, right? You probably noticed lately we're rolling out more vehicles, right? That's kind of become a new vertical on the platform. And in doing so, we'd like to roll out multiple brands that are releasing a similar product, because as you bring in those car collectors, you want to maintain them, the same as we just talked about with the anime vertical. So, things like anime, things like sports, they're still coming. Music, I think, will be further down the line, maybe more of a Veveverse integration. Artists, right, and not just the artists themselves, like Kozik and dropping those kind of things, but we've always, we had the Artist Alley pegged in at one point.
Yep.
And I don't think we've really released a lot of details, but that really is a way to introduce existing and well-known artists, as well as incubate upcoming artists to a new user base and offer very exclusive works or pieces of their art, right? It might be the ones of ones and one of ones and things like that. Now, to roll that out, we need the web platform. We need another way for people to, just as an example, this is not confirmation, but say we were going to auction off a one of one piece. Doing it in the app, you're very limited because you can only buy so many gems per day and things like that. Whereas with the web platform, we have our own payment providing system where you can pay in and potentially buy those larger value items. So there's just a more structured rollout as to when these things hit based on what's necessary to actually roll them out.
Got it. Okay. And speaking of the web platform, I know that you said that's coming first and then KYC. Question on the UI side, right? So there's been recent updates, right? We got our vault values better in line. There's been, some things changing, but for the most part, the UI social aspect still needs some facelift, right? From where it's but there's also bigger priorities, of course. But with the desktop version coming, can we see, I guess, some quicker turnaround time on an uplift on the UI or further functionality? Just because now it's going to be web-based versus only app-based, and will they look exactly the same?
Yeah, to start with, they will absolutely look the same. And I mean, that might be maintained as we go. The web does give us the potential for better functionality, especially for like designing your showrooms, anything that it's so much easier to do with a mouse than it is to kind of sit and click. And I don't have 40 hours to spend like the Voltaholics trying to design these things, So the web platform to start with will absolutely be a mirror of what we have, and then we can build in some of that functionality as we go forward. Yeah, that would be the plan there. Sorry, there was another part to your question that I've just spaced on.
I guess social aspects, right? So like, I know with MC Masterclass, like we got all the acronyms. With MCP, will of course be stack ranked, but will it be stack ranked in the app for us to see? And then are there going to be more social aspects that kind of allow us to just to be more involved in the app full time versus, I guess, doing more through like Twitter and other social?
Yeah, definitely longer term, right? I don't think we'll see those features roll out sort of in the immediate web platform. But yeah, for MCP, anything like that rolls out in the web platform, it will be in the app and vice versa, like your ranking, your points, what you're kind of earning, daily recurring, all of those kind of things. And we may have gotten to this at some point, but the web platform, for one, is live in production, being tested now. I think same thing, we'll invite some beta testers in a couple of weeks when that's ready to kind of just be played with. And the MCP, the first stage of the MCP, I think I last heard was about 70% of the way through now. That's your rankings, I'd have to go back and look at the MCP article. But that first stage is actually pretty close to being implemented now as well. All the algorithms to calculate those points and the recurring daily points and things have all kind of been set and locked in now. So it's more just integrating the UI. Now, how long does the last 30% take? I have no idea. But it should be rolling out concurrently. And now, we've really hit all the big ticket items for new products, the promo codes, the comics, those things that have been quite resource intensive. So it's a lot more optimizations and features now that we can actually start to implement.
Got it. Okay.
Bit of a shadow there.
You starting to feel a little hot there, Rhys? So the spotlight on you?
That's it. It's shining on my head.
Yeah. And we've just got a few more questions, and then if we have time, hopefully we have some time for the community questions as well. But marketing, right? We kind of discussed it in the beginning, but Alex mentioned that he will be expanding the marketing team, and I guess the marketing makes sense once MTL and KYC are live, which he did preface in that AMA. Is the plan to still market both Veve and the OMI token that was mentioned back in summer of last year? And what does that marketing plan look like, right? Like, is it all going to be mostly social advertisement, or is there also potential that Veve could advertise in other metaverses, right? Like how people buy plots of land in Sandbox and Decentraland, and you can advertise there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see any reason why not. It's very targeted advertising at that point because you've got people that are in the ecosystem. A lot of the Veve marketing, and I don't want to speak for Alex on this, as you said, we've been waiting for these kind of core pillars to come in, but a lot of that marketing does come with things like the promo code and that kind of thing, because it's a much more targeted approach than just putting ads on Facebook or things like that, right? There's no real return from those kind of things anymore. I think we'll definitely be rolling out some influencer marketing campaigns as well, trying to, and because of the nature of our products, the brands, and the different types of verticals, you can go and access the collectible car influencers, and you can go and access the Disney influencers, and really start to leverage those individual fan bases and utilize people that are trusted in that space. Now that gives us 250 established communities or more, and that we can really start to roll these things out to and shift that awareness and that focus as new verticals and products are rolled out on the platform. So from a Veve point of view, like I can see a mind ticking. What's going?
Sorry, yeah, it definitely is, but it just kind of hit me. So, I mean, we saw the the partnership earlier last year with Cryptos R Us, but it sounds like part of the marketing strategy is shifting to where you're going to be targeting, lead influencers in the space of where you're going to be dropping those NFTs. Like you said, potential large influencers in vehicles, right? But also you mentioned that there's going to be some games coming later on this year. So you could be targeting influencers who are in the gaming community, who have, again, their own set of fan base and user base who have no idea about Veve.
Yeah, correct. And no idea about OMI, right? It depends what those tie-ins are. So the success of these other games that are using the token and anyone in the future, we will obviously try to boost that. But again, we're going to co-market each other because it's benefiting both ecosystems. You use the Cryptos R Us as an example on the Ecomi side and the token side, because we will be pushing these other integrations and really trying to get the token in as many places as possible, as well as Veve. I will definitely be looking for not influencers in the crypto space, but for publications like that, right? People who do understand it and can direct it. But in the same vein that there's no point advertising empty shelves in Veve, there's not much point spending money on the marketing side of things on the token until you can use it in the app or until there are other uses for it, right? So that's definitely the first stage of that before we can really push that side. But I'm building a new token team to help me on that side and with the marketing thing as well, so that we really can start to expand the awareness and the use of the token.
I think that's the first time we've heard that. So Veve in general is expanding, right? So we've heard the marketing team's expanding. You're building out a token team. And is the token team just to re-engineer the tokenomics, or will they stay on and kind of do more for the token?
Stay on and do more. So we're looking, dedicated developers to help me to really build out all of the, the OUP integrations, but all of the future integrations in using the token too. More on the marketing side as well. Like, I'm good at what I do, but I'm not that good at all of these things, right? So I need the help on that front. But we're finally, we are at that point where those big ticket items are out of the way. We've survived the first 12 months of this product being live. And now we can start to utilize more resources and bring them on. So the team in general is always expanding, right? Alex is expanding his marketing team for the Veve side. We've got 2 new creative directors who have been with us since the start of the year, once Trevor moved on. And those guys have a lifetime of experience, not just as a production manager, like the role Trevor was in, but actually building the models and sculpting and all of those kind of things and working with licensors. So, all of those pieces are in place now as well. I think we brought on 3 new developers in the past couple of weeks on the Veve side to help kind of scale that out. there's always new security engineers and all of those things. So yeah, I mean, the team is just growing exponentially at the moment, and it needs to. We need more hands on deck to scale the product and to scale to meet our vision. Yeah.
No, that is actually my next question was around turnover, right? Trevor leaving was kind of a surprise to all of us, right? He was awesome for the community. He's a smart guy. And then my question was, I mean, you've been with Ecomi for years. I was actually looking for a picture of you that was like updated to put on the thumbnail. And I found one where you have short hair when it was talking about Orbis Ecomi. And I was like, Rhys had short hair at one point, but this is like years ago. And so, yeah, so you've been around for a long time. And so it sounds like, there's going to be more expansion on the teams, but what's kept you here for so long, right? It's, when you signed on, there was talk of a certain product and became a different thing. And then now it's become what it is today, but you have to have had other opportunities, especially with other, NFTs and other marketplaces that are maybe even larger, right? So I guess what keeps you here, and how large do you think, your team or just the Veve team will be expanding over the next year?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started with Ecomi, we just had a wallet, and it wasn't even we didn't even have the product yet, right? It was like, hey, we need someone to write some articles for us about blockchain. And I was like, what the hell is blockchain? That was it. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Sure, I'm sure I could figure this out. What keeps me here is I mean, one, even amongst all the chaos and the exhaustion and all those things, this is the most exciting opportunity that I've ever been a part of, right? And just to really be able to facilitate this transition, especially as we really do move into the metaverse. I mean, we've got the co-founders, obviously Dan and Dave have built this product, but like collectively, we all, not just the team, but the community, we're all really the forefathers and foremothers of the metaverse, right? And that to me is exciting to be able to really, or hopefully influence that in a positive manner, because moving to a more digital life could be quite dystopian if it's done incorrectly, right? So look, I feel not an obligation to stay around. I'm very much, I'm still so excited about all of this, right? This is ground zero of an entirely new era of humanity, not just of products and those kind of things. So to have a hand in shaping that is incredibly satisfying for me. I've stuck around because we've all worked so damn hard to get here already. I'm inspired by this every day, and by the community and by the vision that we all collectively have and contribute to. So, until I feel that change or like I've achieved, or not peaked, but until I find a point where I feel like I've achieved everything I could achieve, I'll be here. I think we all will be.
Yeah, no, great answer. And I've got one last question, then we'll take some community questions. So get your questions ready, guys. Try to make them, we've got Rhys for X amount of time, so try to make them pointed. 1 year ago, or I guess just 2 weeks shy of 1 year ago, we had our first AMA, and I asked you on that AMA, what do you think will happen with Veve, big picture, long term? And you said you believe Veve will be a household name. And at the time, it was kind of like still very early, right? And we're at 60,000 users around there, maybe 100,000 is where we hit it, but that's still a big ask. And even now at 2.6, that's still a big ask. So, transparently between you, me, our 600 closest friends watching, do you still feel the same way as things have changed from last year? And what strategic initiatives do you and the team have to make that possible for Veve?
Yeah, if anything, I'm more bullish now than I was then. Then it was we had all these ideas and vision, but it was untested, right? And there's still a lot of iterations and testing to go. But I mean, I think Veve will become one of the biggest companies in the world, frankly, right? We have this we're digitizing decades worth of content from an individual brand, let alone 250 brands and artists. We're creating these kind of endless revenue streams for licensors, but also just creating all of these new product types, reusing that IP, I don't know anyone who was buying a Slimer figurine, 12 months ago from a shelf, but they'll buy the digital version because there's that nostalgic value attached. When you really expand the scope of that IP that these brands hold on to, and put it in place in terms of this global transition into a digital life. Yeah, I don't really see a future where Veve hasn't become a household name and hasn't really kind of taken a lot of that market share and impact, and then you expand on it with the metaverse idea and all those things. So yeah, I'm easily more bullish than I was 12 months ago. I'd say in another 12 months I'll be in the exact same boat. And because this thing was a Jimmy McElroy thing. If you can dream it, you can do it, right? Like if you like, you understand, if it can be built, it can be built. The only limitations are time, right, or resources, and to do it in a way, or to do it with people who have such high levels of success in business, David Yu and Al Khan and Dan, and for me personally, to be able to learn from them and really understand the structured plans behind these rollouts. It's I'm nothing short of bullish. Initiative wise, I mean, everything we've kind of touched on today, the way that we will continue to roll out these products, continue to access these fan bases, continue to build that user base to the point where, we can start creating our own branded content, right? And I think David Yu's dreams would be to eventually own the studios that are making the content instead of outsourcing, and see the company expand from that side as well, which then, maybe somewhere down the line we do move into the hardware side of things in terms of the glasses or the partnerships and that stuff too. So, I mean, there's limitless potential with something like this because there are no physical bounds to what we're doing, right? And that's never been available before.
No, that's super helpful, because that was one thing that I was kind of curious too, right? Is you said from last year, you didn't really have funding. It took off, blew up, and then now you do have funding, and then you're about to get a whole lot more potential cash infusion once we go web version, because Apple's not taking as big of a chunk of that pie that is the revenue that you can make, right? So that's good to know that you're really looking at, I guess, future acquisitions or potential mergers, either on the hardware side or even bringing things in-house, right? If you're outsourcing for studios, you're paying a premium, right? Versus having someone who can run it in-house. And that's helpful to know. So that kind of helps me kind of articulate, all right, just saying that you want to become one of the world's largest companies, that's a big ask, right? But it's not impossible. We've seen companies have it happen in, 5 years, 10 years to have weight against some others. And so it's just a matter of making the right moves and growing exponentially, which the past year obviously has. So that is super exciting.
So, I mean, you've got to aim high, right? Like, why not? Why not? We've got the opportunity here. Another beautiful thing about Veve is, we're not, unlike a lot of companies in this space, there's not a crazy amount of VC backing, that gets to influence these choices just to be profit driven, so that we can maintain such a strong focus on the collectability or on the communities that we're trying to access and build, instead of like, no, we just need to churn out this thing and sell this stuff. So, being able to maintain that control is a very big positive for our ecosystem as well, especially because it has come from such a pure place. Like, I love watching David Yu talk about collectibles. He's like, I'd love to see him. Yeah. So it's like, it's satisfying. We've all grown together to really deliver this product and catch these curveballs that seem to come at us every 3 days and manage those things as well. So no, I couldn't be more bullish on the future.
Awesome. And take a few of the community questions. There's one who came from Mark, actually, and I think this is a great question, but airdrops potentially from large companies in talk short term, right? So without, I guess you can't say who, but is there propensity for, a large brand like Disney or Coke or someone of that caliber who could do airdrops on some of the collectibles that we have today?
I mean, there's potential for anything, right? And I don't want to say one way or another whether it will be anything. But purely from a licensing point of view and my experience as to how long it takes some of these assets to be approved and all those kind of things, I think we're more likely to continue seeing them from the more independent artists in the short term than we are the bigger brands. I think you may have caught it that Matt Gondek there's an airdrop going out. There was a snapshot a few days ago or last week sometime. So congratulations to everyone who supported Matt in that first drop, or the first 2 drops, I should say. So I think we'll see more of that. Those guys are just a bit more ingratiated in the NFT community too, right? And that is a big feature of the NFT community. So yeah, I wouldn't rule any of these things out, but from a short-term roadmap, no, I think we'll see it from more independent artists than we will the big brands. Yeah.
Awesome. And that's actually, I liked his work in general, and then people were selling them cheap. And I've always kind of theorized, right? Like we saw some drops come from, or the airdrops come from Ron English. And I was just thinking, I mean, it makes sense for most of these artists, especially the ones who already have content in other NFT platforms, to do something like that. So when people were selling them cheap, I was like, I'm going to complete the set and hold it and see what happens. Right. So I'm looking forward to having that airdrop come.
And not to just to add to that, like the artists do have a smaller community, so they can be more personal with it, right? As opposed to like the big conglomerates who are generally faceless, right? We're the link between them and the community now, instead of an artist that you can contact on Twitter and talk about his work and that kind of thing. So from their point of view, it's a great community building tool as well. Whereas like something like the Coca-Colas of the world, I mean, they're going to be fine with or without us, right? They've got a hell of a lot of customers already. So, until that becomes more of a feature, I think we'll see it from the smaller guys.
Awesome. And I just want to pull this question up because I believe it was already answered in the last AMA that the metadata will be shown in some of the updates that's coming, right?
Not in, I don't think it's
in the marketplace, or?
Yes, yeah. There'll be more in the marketplace and through the web platform, but the metadata on a Mutascan, presumably, is what they're kind of asking for, really requires us to create and move a lot of data to an independent server, independent database, so that token can link back to the image files and those kind of things. Now, it's on the timeline, but honestly, it's just not that big a priority yet. And until, and I mean, the whole user experience for Veve is still inside the Veve app. So you can see all the metadata there anyway. And I expect it to remain that way until we get these other bigger ticket items in place.
But we will eventually be able to see that, for instance, like he's asking about how Palm are advertising they're launching the first DC NFT, but we'll be able to see and have an audit trail that shows that the TODs were minted in October 2020, right?
Yeah. 2020. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know why Palm NFT advertises these things. They're just it's everyone
is trying to knock them down.
It's just how it goes. It's just how it goes. Yeah, and like we're all so ingratiated in the NFT space that these things seem weird to me. But not every company is aware of every other company, and not every licensing department operates in the same way. There isn't. We might be with DC Direct, maybe they're with some other branch of DC, right, or DC Comics or that kind of thing. So these things are usually more layered than most people realize, and people are just oblivious sometimes. Yeah,
got it. I mean, and actually, I was kind of filtering through the questions, but if they're stating something like that, or another competitor is stating something like that, is that not, I wouldn't say like a suable offense, but is that not something that you could kind of go after and say like, hey, this is incorrect or misinformation? Or is that just kind of?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Yeah. It's not, look, I just think we're so early in the piece that it's a waste of resources to bother at the moment. Like we definitely can do it, but I mean, we've all been using Veve for, almost 18 months now, 12 months, 18 months. We all know where these NFTs started. For me, that's enough. Whether we'd bother pursuing or not is another story. I think after the last time they announced something like, didn't Palm try to say something like this 6 months ago, that they were releasing the first DC NFT and now they're doing it again?
Yeah, so I think so. And I believe what's the big movie theater, Regal, or one of them was like, hey, we have the first Spider-Man NFT, right? And like a lot of around that AMC, too. So
AMC, right? It's first Spider-Man NFT. Yeah, whatever it was, blah blah blah, and then and I think people are just oblivious of what's actually taking place in the ecosystem, and anyone who can try to claim we're the first that ever did this, you kind of try to capitalize on that PR opportunity, whether it's right or wrong.
Right.
I think people should fully expect to see more of it, right? It's if that's part of people's product rollout strategy and they're trying to claim that first space, they're going to do it regardless of whether it's true.
is Veve still working with Rogers and Cohen? Because isn't that part of, I guess, what PR strategy would do, right? To like comment on this, like when someone makes a big claim, sometimes there's a lull and before we get like a response, or sometimes it just kind of internally works until there's an AMA. But I guess, is that going to be, we're going to see more from the PR side with Rogers Cohen, not just like, hey, this big drop came from Veve, so we're going to put it out to like PR Newswire and like all these other ones, but we see more, I guess, kind of more spin control coming?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they already actually do quite a bit of that as it is. And predominantly, if you're seeing Veve in a publication or any of our drop info or those things, it's come from Rogers and Cohen. They've pushed to their media lists, those kind of things, especially we'll really start to utilize their connections through media lists at events like NFT NYC, those kind of things, so that we are starting to target much more niche audiences in the NFT space, but also in the brand space. But yeah, or any publication that you've ever seen Veve in has been a direct result of their outreach. So they're doing a great job, actually.
Got it. Awesome. Token migration, is the bridge site still indefinite for those who don't want to migrate their tokens just yet?
Okay, so there's a bit of confusion going out about these things, right? The bridge is very separate to the token migration or the token swap. Okay, so the token swap site is chainswap.ecomi.com. That allows you to swap from the old GoChain token or wrapped OMI token to the new ERC20 OMI token. The bridge is how you move the new ERC20 OMI token, so you must have migrated it first. That's how you move from base chain Ethereum or layer 1 to layer 2, which is immutable, and then send it into the Veve app. So two separate things. The migration, the chain swap site to go from GoChain to Ethereum, will remain open indefinitely. The bridge will also remain open indefinitely until or unless we get to a time where all tokens in existence are living on layer 2, and exchanges are integrated. So two separate things there. And on that, people may have seen me tweet. That's actually live. The bridge is live now. Two things left to test before I'm going to send anyone there. But that now allows you to bridge or deposit to layer 2, withdraw back to layer 1, and transfer from immutable to other ERC20 wallets, which hasn't been available yet. That's a brand new feature on their side as well. So I'll pull that out next week, I think.
Awesome. I've seen a few questions about like asking on Twitter verification, which I know you guys have been trying forever. See a question from Wubba Wubba on any chance reducing the 10% cash out fee, which I think probably need to make up for some of the hit you're taking on there. So not sure.
Look, the longer term plan is definitely to try and bring that fee down. It's I think David mentioned it in the at the end of the Gary Baseman artist spotlight that we had, but it is a balancing mechanism because we are taking that 30% hit from app stores as well, and we'll definitely look to bring that down and in line with the rest of the industry. I mean, longer term, I'm trying to and I think we'll see it, is to be able to just cash back into stable coins, right? I mean, this whole industry is becoming much more integrated with crypto and crypto payments anyway. Like, why would you want to wait 2 weeks to get money in your bank account when I can cash it to stables almost instantly? So I think that's what we'll eventually see, and those things should obviously, the fee should come down on that too.
Awesome. No, that's great to hear. Crypto Chris, will there be any rewards for early adopters like an OG badge or something? I remember there was mention that everyone who had season 1 collectibles or was a user in season 1, you guys mentioned will have at some point some kind of OG status. But will there ever be like an OG badge or some kind of tie back to when you joined as a user?
Yeah, I think we can definitely build that in. The badges and things will come as part of the MCP, and some of those, whether it's OG badge or whether it's season 1 badge or just something that lets you flex back then as well. I think we discussed early on to be able to display the date you joined Veve as well, because that in itself is the badge basically, and I don't think we've integrated that yet. So yeah, features like that I think are definitely worth having, and I mean, really a lot of those OG collectors are the ones that will be able to move up the ranks of the MCP anyway, and that becomes a bit of a status symbol as well. So yeah, definitely it goes with the collector mindset, right? Everybody likes to show off a little bit and flex, and if we can build in more of those things, then it's just more fun for everybody.
100%. And we'll take a few more questions. I've had you for quite some time, so appreciate the added time. But Cooper asks, what's the biggest obstacle you see for Veve in the upcoming months or years?
Biggest obstacle? Getting enough sleep is probably honestly, I don't see any particular like stake in the ground or I think, oh, that's going to be really hard to overcome, right? I mean, the only real obstacles are time and resources, and because of the success of the past 14 months and the hype cycle that came with it, we're perfectly poised to be able to build these things and continue to expand the team. So yeah, there's not one particular thing that sticks out in my mind. I mean, we face new and different challenges every week. Google just delisted us from the App Store 2 days ago and then reinstated us. I mean, like, there's always something.
Yeah, that was weird. That was really an odd. It seems like when it rains, it pours. Like there's just like a collection of things that all happened in the past 2 months.
Yeah, just piles on. I mean, even the bot thing, right? Like when we first launched this product, we sat there thinking like, I hope someone wants to buy this, and then we've had to spend the last 9 months building in systems to stop people buying things, or stop this. So like, there's just stuff that there's so many things we can't account for that we will just deal with as we go. But with each one, our capabilities to handle these situations grow. So nothing really seems insurmountable at this point.
Awesome. And this is an interesting question, but Ryan asks, Alcon had said that Veve in the past was working with the same team that made Pokemon Go. So I'm wondering if he's referring to Niantic. In an interview a while back, is that still in progress?
It's a very good question. What do we know what interview that came from? Is it mine? I think there was a clip on Twitter from a very early investor meeting or something. Honestly, I can't speak to that. I have no idea. I'd have to. Yeah, that's a somebody else question, frankly.
If you want him to hop on right now, you can let him know. This is an interesting question. So when will we be able to use Veve NFTs as our Twitter profile picture? Imagine that would tie into the whole Immutable X Marketplace side, and when they can build that integration with Twitter, right?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly right. When the NFTs are interoperable, they're all built on the same standard, right? So Twitter has integrated ERC 721 as your profile pictures. As soon as you can send our NFTs out, theoretically, you could use them as your profile picture. So yeah, whenever those kind of things take place, if there's a slightly different integration because it's a layer 2, maybe it takes longer. But I still maintain that everybody and all users will move into these layer 2 protocols over the next 12 to 24 months, and those integrations will come with them. So.
Got it. Awesome. I see a few that we already kind of know the answers. And I think you've already, for the most part, answered this, but I'll go ahead and take this as the last question. Horace really wants to know, he's typed quite a few times, what are Ecomi Veve's priorities at the moment? And why do they take so long for everything? I think the priorities. Yeah. What are the, MPL, KYC, everything that we've spoken about so far?
Yeah, I think we've kind of touched on that anyway. The core priorities at the moment are web platform, KYC, payout, then OUP, and like integrating the OMI features, right? Being able to do OMI to NFT, that kind of thing. That's probably the next biggest community request outside of payout, and obviously putting OMI in more and more places. As to why we take so long for everything, we don't. I completely disagree with that. We were a startup 14 months ago that had never sold a product and launched a product into a non-existent industry. And we have managed to build that industry off our backs to the point where we now have competitors copying what we're doing. So to say that we take too long, completely wrong. I think your time horizon's wrong. And on top of that, there's been so many of these curveballs and new integrations that we've had to build in, right? Like whether it was the comics or whether it was, the controllability or all of these other kind of things that have taken precedent on top of being a very lean team for a lot of last year. It's only now that we have that capacity to expand and really build out the team and as we say, move the existing people up the rungs so that we can continue to branch out and roll these developments out. So yeah, I mean, frankly, I completely disagree with the statement that we take too long to do things. Obviously, yes, things like the MTL and stuff we thought we would have in place 6 months ago, right? But that again to us was a brand new thing, new integration, start building that in, change provider, then New Zealand comes out with these new rules, so we have to kind of rejig the way that we're doing things and the order of stuff. So there's always very justifiable reasons as to why something gets moved around, but all of those are to maintain what we have and to future-proof for the longevity of the business. So, yeah.
Awesome. I'll take one more question, as that one was kind of all over the place. But Michael asks, Rhys, can you explain how the reserve wallet has significance? And I feel like this is a good question because a lot of people don't fully understand the tokenomics. And then also, there's been a lot of like, hey, if OMI's burning this so much, what happens if it goes to zero? So when the reserve wallet goes to zero, does the circulating supply start to diminish, or will the team do non-programmable random buybacks?
Yeah, so the circulating supply won't go to zero. The reserve wallet won't go to zero. And I will release more information on that alongside our OUP rollout and sort of how that's going to work and how we're tying these other games and platforms into our ecosystem. So we have kind of developed, we figured that out. We've got a lot of mechanics there that won't let it go to zero and give it that longevity and give us the capacity to use that reserve to support these other platforms and any future products that we happen to come out with, over the next few years. So the removal of tokens from circulating supply in our ecosystem will come directly from the OMI Utility program, which will then hopefully, we've created a system where those can continue to trickle back into the reserve and extend the longevity of that too. But just stay tuned for a few more weeks until I get those details out, and it'll all become a lot clearer.
Awesome. And thank you for the super chat, girl on me. But I think this ties in directly to what you just said, right? So that article will have more, I guess, let us more know what's happening with the buybacks, with the circulating supply, the non-circulating supply burns, circulating supplies burns. So you even said that you're kind of almost re-engineering some of the tokenomics, right? To make them more powerful and to kind of meet with where we've now reached on the token burn that was not supposed to be burning this much, probably at this stage. So some of this clarity will be coming out with that article. Absolutely.
Yeah, it will. And look, if buybacks, I think I mentioned this a few days ago in our last AMA, and this really stemmed from, I'm as sick as waiting for clarity on this as everybody else, right? And instead of just sitting back and hoping for the best to come out, or taking the chance and then being hit with some sort of SEC lawsuit down the line, we've really just tried to re-engineer things to get it moving now, right? Until we have that clarity. Now, if the final determinant is like, no, we advise you against buybacks in their current capacity, well, then we reallocate that to have the exact same effect, just in a different part of the system. And that's really what we've put together. We have quite a number of options there as to how we could use that to benefit the token. It may even, maybe we use some of that fund for token marketing, right? Anything that can help to push that into other parts of the ecosystem or the wider crypto sphere, I think is beneficial for all of us. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to sharing this. Basically, I know I'm dancing around it at the moment. I don't mean to, fam. I don't mean to, I'm trying to keep my mouth shut more than anything. But when I have these sign-offs on this last document and I can put it out, then we'll have a great discussion about it all.
Now, we all enjoy watching you tap dance and try to figure out how can I navigate this question without completely revealing something and then having Alex and Dan yell at me later.
Yeah, and then having 4,000 people demand the information for the next 3 weeks.
No, we've had a few of these AMAs, and we have AMAs, pretty frequently, especially for, an NFT project of this size, much more than most other projects. So it's, I think, helpful though to have someone from the community, whether it's myself or other creators or just on a Twitter Spaces, to have some of these questions and just to get full clarity, because again, it helps us kind of piece together and then relay the information out as well, right? And to get excited, right? So, I appreciate you hopping on while you're in Singapore. I know that we're like 15 hours difference, but we made it happen. And I always appreciate these long chats and just giving more visibility to the fam, right? So thanks so much for hopping on.
Right back at you, man. I always appreciate it. Shout out to the fam, everyone who joined us today, and anyone who watches this later. Super exciting times ahead. So yeah, stay tuned. I really appreciate it. And of course, thanks, Taps. Thanks for reaching out.
Awesome. And thanks everyone for hopping in. Hit the like button, share, let people know what's happening. Rhys did drop a few pretty awesome things in this. So I'm going to have to rewatch this and then maybe I'll do like an AMA recap of my own video. Someone else do it. Someone else do it. I don't want to do it.
Ravel's doing it as we speak. What do you mean?
Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much, Rhys. I'll let you get on with your day. Thanks everyone for hopping in here, and we will see you on the next one.
See you, fam.
Cheers, everyone.